friends, welcome to You See the Table. I'm Rick, and Gray White Mama's laying over here at the moment, and we are looking at what appears to be issue 101 of Battle Technology. Now, I could have sworn I did this video already, and I went and I looked up on my channel, and I cannot find it. And I thought this was one like I said, I had all these once upon a time. I had all of them, and I only have one survivor, and I thought that was the one I did the video on it. And I don't think it is now, but it just kind of thought it was. Uh, Hi, Mama. For those that haven't heard the rant and rave about that over the years, when I was, let's just say from 2002 to 2016, most of my stuff got stashed. My games were wrapped up and stored, and they were stored in a spare bedroom in my parents' house. Thankfully, in a spot that nobody knew where they were, and they were left alone. Unfortunately, the rest of my personal stuff had been in a different room. Actually, it was stored in the attic, and then I had a cousin decided to move all this stuff out to the barn, and I didn't know about it, and it sat out there for about 6 years or 7 years, exposed to the weather, and then there was a whole family of woodchucks who decided, yes, Mama, I don't need. She's literally rubbing her face against my mouth. Yes, the woodchucks got in and tunneled up underneath everything, and then a bunch of stuff fell in. That's where I lost half of my miniature collection. I was just horrific. That was horrific. I sat out there for days with shovels, digging and digging and digging, and trying to recover as many of them as I could. And there's just so many that did not make it through. The books got far worse condition because the weather destroyed them. The winters, the snow blows in through the sides of the barn walls, and it got all over them. And I'm not a very violent person physically speaking. I'm not a big person in physical violence. I never have been. Don't get me wrong. I may not be a kickboxer. I may not be a professional boxer, but if you're average Joe dumbass and you're going to come at me and think you're going to shove me around, you're going to get a really, really rude awakening. At least when I was younger, I was 6'2", 200 plus, and literally capable of throwing full-size bales of hay at people. And I don't mean toss them. I mean pick them up by the end and literally heave them at you. Because we used to do that. My cousins and I used to do that for fun. Don't ask me why. That's what farm boys do when they're freaking bored. Just saying, right? Anyway, I figured we're going to go ahead and do this video. If Mama will let me. Mama, you got to let me. I know. But you've been up with these 2 hours now. I've been doing videos 2 hours, and I can't have you in the way of all of it all the time. You just can't. Yes. I know. You're just loving the attention. So we are looking at issue number 1, as best I know, August 30, 27. The actual published date with this was 1987-ish, 1980. Oh, fine print. It's so hard for me to read anymore, even with new glasses. I still haven't. Still struggling with it. This says 87, but this is something else. I don't think that's related to this. I want to see what year. Come on, all kinds of other wonderful stuff in here, but you're supposed to have the blasted year in here too, somewhere. 1987. So the 87 with this is correct. This is an advertisement. Oh, this is the advertisement to get your subscription to BattleTechnology, coming out of Oakland, California at that point. Contents. What is Hands up to? MechWarrior, mind and machine. Mastering the inner fire, mind as a weapon. Drop into hell combat drop on Scheat 5. Departments, hiring hall, Worldbook, BattleTac, Sidearms, repair bay, etc., etc. So let's take a gander at this, right? Let's just take a good gander. So you get opening shots. It has been said that of the 31st century, the human life is cheap, while combat machines they pilot are not. Certainly, this is true in military terms, etc., etc. So this was the William H. Keith, 3027. Mech Force, the official BattleTech fan club. I was a member of Mech Force for a few years. I don't know if I ever went beyond that, but anyway, so we get Leopold's Ransom, the Duke of Alcyone. Alcyone? I can't pronounce it. All right. Says reader surveys indicate a fully 32.6% of BattleTechnology readers are mercenary warriors, either as members of the established mercenary command unit serving in one or another of the great houses, or as freelance warriors for hire, in such diverse services as bounty hunters and personal bodyguards for important government and corporate officials. So, kind of pointing out that this is one of those early on things where I pointed out to people, you do not have to in BattleTech, you do not have to be a member of a house. You do not have to be a part of a mercenary command. You can actually not even be a formal MechWarrior. You can actually operate and pilot your mech in many applications for third party employers. So if you've got a wealthy enough somebody with enough money is going to hire bodyguards, then if they have even deeper pockets, they're more than likely going to hire more than one or more bodyguards that can then use mechs. Because in an era where mechs are king, you need the king to defeat another king. That's how you kind of look at it, right? So Brimstone, fiery hell on the Creeta border, or the Creeta frontier, from Andrew Keat. I wonder if Mr. Keat's still writing for BattleTech. I just wonder. Why is it? The name sounds familiar. I know I've read his name and other stuff. It's drawing a blank at the moment. So we're talking about Brimstone, the planet. We got our system data, particular planet, government, economies, layouts, planet breakdowns itself. Excuse me. Then we get the Battle of Kilgour. Hi, Mama. You gonna go up there and lay down by the window? Okay. Sure. I'm getting down to my last videos, and she's gonna go settle down now. Battle of Kilgour, July 5th through the 6th of 3027, Corella 2. Right. We've come such a long way for our visual combat shots from what we had available to us then, and this would have been cutting edge idea of this here. Right. Now, I have a theory. I has a theory, my friends. I do, and you can tell me if I was wrong. When I look at these kind of grainy black and white photos, and I grant you, these were still grainy black and white photos, or grainy photos without the color. I'd have to go get the PDF and see if these were supposed to be color or not. But I suspect these were from. There was a line of plastic models of battle mechs in the very early 80s, mid 80s. And I had the Griffin, the Wolverine, the Battlemaster, and I think I had the Rifle. These three for sure. I had a fourth one, but I'm drawing a blank on which one it was. But I'm pretty sure there was also a Warhammer, an Archer, and a Crusader that was available. There was like 10 or 12 of these models available. And I want to say it might have been a Locust too, but I suspect that's what they used was these models because they were somewhat posable in far more detail and larger than the details these would not be the lead minis of the era would not look like this. I guarantee it that the lead mini of the riflemen from that era, the frickin' sweep, the antenna sweep up here is not that pronounced. It would not last very long in a lead miniature. It was not that pronounced, right? So we get into the next chapter of laser pistols: the Starfash, the KK-98, the Nova Laser, the Bell-Eater 49S Ultra, TK-70, the Martel Model 10. Now, speaking of the plastic kits, here are the plastic models at that point. There were available. 31st Century Warfare is ruled by metal giants and gleaming death and blah, blah, blah. This game, blah, blah, blah. Each BattleTech plastic model set contains 2 BattleTech plastic models, statistics for each mech, and a scenario designed for 2 mechs. And I don't know see, each set contains 2 battle mechs, decals, complete easily assembly instructions, a new BattleTech game scenario, technical diagrams of the battle mechs included. So I had the Shadowhawk and the Scorpion. I do not know what happened to Scorpion. I had the Griffin and Locust. I do not know what happened to Locust. I had the Thunderbolt and the Battlemaster. Do not remember what I did with the Thunderbolt. I had the Wolverine and the Goliath. and I believe I had the Wasp and the Wasp Lamb. So, the rifleman and the Crusader and the Archer, then the rifleman and the Warhammer, and these were $7. These were $7 back then, and the ones I had, they stood easily 10 inches, 10 inches tall. If these are the ones I think they are. Now, they might not be. These might be something different, but it's just I had a lot of them anyway. Once again, those items for years, were sitting up on a top shelf, a curio shelf in my back of my mom's living room, along with 3 sets. Do y'all remember? For those of you who are old like me, or maybe collectors of Star Wars stuff, but there were when the Star Wars came out in the 70s and 80s, the Burger King got a licensing deal to produce glasses. So these really thin, fragile glasses, like your tabletop drinking glasses kind of thing, were with Star Wars motif on them. Like there's one with Luke Skywalker and the droids, another one Han and Chewie and stuff like this, different scenes, stuff like this. So there was one for each of the 3 movies made. And my mother took us out rare days for her to have the money and the time to take us to any place to eat, let alone this sort of thing. But she knew just how much I was into Star Wars, so we would go to whenever the new glass came out, we would go to the Burger King in Altoona, and which is about 9 miles away from my hometown. And she would buy 3 sets. She would get one for herself, one for me, and one for my sister. My sister couldn't care less about anything Star Wars, and Mom really didn't either. So it ended up with me. I still have all these glasses, all of them. They're in a shelf in our kitchen above the refrigerator, which is hard to get to, collecting dust, and they're probably still filled with dust from my mom's house from 40 plus years of being stored. Anyhow, right? Mommy, you're on my thing again. Come here. No, come on, get up. I'm still trying. Yes, I know, but I'm trying to do stuff. Jeez. All right. So we got what is Hands up to? Maneuvers and war games, bringing the successor states closer to an all-out war. So what we have is the early opening gambits for what will become the Fourth Succession War. In the years leading up to the Fourth Succession War, specifically the 3 to 4 years before the Fourth Succession War officially breaks out. Extensive war games are practiced by both the Federated Commonwealth and the House Davion and House Steiner, the Commonwealth and the Federated Sons. Both are running these huge multi-unit, multi-world military exercises, and both maneuvering forces around and then fighting, mock fighting on planets, etc., etc. And the first 2 years this is done alarms the bejesus out of the Caredans, the Compellans specifically, but including and then also Janos Merrick as well. For a while there was a concern. By the 3rd year, they became a routine thing that they paid less attention to it. What they weren't paying attention to was that not all of the units that participated in these exercises returned to their base worlds. Quite a few of these units were being repositioned and finding themselves in new postings much closer to the front of the would-be future front than what they were before, and nobody was paying attention, or people who were paying attention were not listening to the people who were not listening to those who did pay attention, because it went under the radar. So by the 4th year, this is even more prominent, where many of the military units that participated in the military exercise, and I think they would call them Galahads or something like that. There was a different name for the ones on East. Yeah, Operation Galahad was, so it says here opposite. The jump ship FSS Executor and her sister ship recharge their drives the nadir jump point of the new Avalon. Jump ships such as these represent a vital technological resource and an irreplaceable one. Do needless military exercises such as Operation Galahad threaten this vital link to the framework of modern civilization? So we're teaching they're teaching the military units to work together, to coordinate much larger operations together, to give the logistics system time to learn how to support these in the field and what's going to be required, to also quietly start repositioning these military units to be in a much more advantageous position to launch the fourth succession war when it does occur. It's just hardly lead up to it. And those of us who were just starting in that era, we were caught up with it at the moment. The fourth succession war had not taken place at this point. In game, it was just this gradual combat, build up a little bit, a lot of little putty stuff, the same things that the third succession war had been doing for over 100 damn years. This is 3025 for you. So by the time the fourth succession war breaks out, it comes as a huge shock to the base, and the base loved it. The BattleTech fans back then loved it, and it really drew a large core of the old hats now in was that fourth succession war era where they were introduced to BattleTech and have been with us ever since, or like me, who bugged out and then came back because it is what it is. Operation, I had the means and the where, never mind, doesn't matter. Operation Galahad, the waste of an almost war. So we talk about that, about just how, keep in mind, in 3025, it was hammered home in the games that salvage was king. You needed to salvage at every opportunity, that you needed to consider, the houses were in such a situation that throwing entire regimental combat teams, entire fleets at somebody's planet was like a once-in-a-year thing. So we would pick some surrogate. We look at Mallory's World, for example, in the early campaigns of the Kel Hounds, and where Ion Davion is killed, and Hanse Davion becomes the first prince. In that particular era, it was a massive endeavor for both houses to field just less than a dozen mech units, let alone supporting units, and then attack and conquer and hold several worlds of an opposing house. And then it was a major endeavor for that opposing house to bring in enough resources to beat back the incursion, which is traditionally how the third succession war had been fought for a better part of 100 years. So the ideas begin to develop in Hanse Davion's minds that we've missed something. There's someplace down the road. If you look at the first and second succession wars are by no means a good example to be going by, but the sheer fact of numbers shows that the inner sphere had gotten used to this petty tit for tat stuff for so long that nobody was really prepared for full-on warfare. And if you want to make there's some case to be made about this, that the inner sphere houses would have been far less prepared to cope with the clan's arrival than they were. They were woefully prepared. We will all acknowledge that the houses in general were woefully prepared for that the initial clan invasion. And even after that, it was a fight to the knife for many, many years. So this is all built, the clan arrival comes after a massive change in military doctrine. That's the opening gambits of the fourth succession war, an all-out war, a reintroduction of full-on war across wide fronts, many worlds, hundreds of units, and untold amounts of resources poured into this effort. One of the reasons why the Federated Commonwealth was so successful in the fourth succession war, especially on the Capellan side, the Confederate front, was the ability for the Davions to bring all those forces to the front and pre-stage them in advance, and then pre-stage the logistics in advance, and then manage to keep their opponent off guard enough for them not to pick up on that. They were obsessed with a couple other minor things. It's like in the Draconis Combine when it's just luck of the draw for Hanse Davion that Wolf's Dragoons has its falling out with the Combine, and it becomes this personal feud between Jamie Wolf and Takashi Kurita that really hamstrings the Draconis Combine's war efforts during the fourth succession war. It's not, it's just it's not until the second half of the Fourth Succession War that Theodore Crete is starting to regain some momentum that was lost by his father's frickin' obsession and dueling with the dragoons. So it was just fortunate. That was a very fortunate, unforeseen boon for House Davion. And they wasted no time on giving the dragoons a place to stay, and knowing that down the road that this was going to be advantageous for them to do so. So everything changes drastically, and the Fourth Succession War is a massive learning curve and industrial boon and technological boon for all sides, including the losers. Right, especially since we see in the year after the Fourth Succession War, we see Comstar secretly giving technical aid, technology and stuff to the Draconis Combine, as an example. And this allows Theodore Crete to not only introduce a whole new set of units, a dozen ghost units alone, regiments that the house didn't have before at a crucial time they needed them, but also to introduce new mechs, and new weapon systems. The predecessors or the precursors of what the clans are going to reintroduce to the Inner Sphere in Impact. So we already know that because of the Helm Memory Core and the NASA's improvements, a lot of this stuff is given yet another boost again, and their importance is really driven home during the Fourth Succession War. So we're already in this renaissance of weapons and technology. We now see after the Fourth Succession War, we see this multitude of new designs come out and be introduced, and research being put into rediscovering Star League era technology. This means our military generation of people have learned how to fight massive combat and large scale combat against large scale units. Also in desperate situations as well as not so desperate situations. And our logistics system is beefier now than it would have been in 3025. If the clans, I challenge you, my fellow BattleTech enthusiasts, ask yourself, how well would the clan invasion have gone had it been launched in 3025 or 3030 or 3015 or something before the Helm Memory Core gets any kind of traction, before the force the melding of the creation of the Federated Commonwealth, which brings yet even additional resources and power enhancements and development and increasing amount of units and all the new units that are introduced by the Draconis Combine that allows them to at least bring the War of 3039 to a stalemate. Not only did they blunt Hanse Davion's thrust, they broke it. And then they broke Hanse. That's how it went. All this would have been not had the clans came in, let's say, like I said, let's just say 3025. If they'd invaded in 2035, how different would that fight have been? I don't doubt that at the end of the day, the clans were still biting off more than they could swallow. The sheer size of the Inner Sphere and its industrial capacity compared to what the clans had available, no matter how good their people and their equipment are, they're still going to get literally buried by a wall of zombies, of Inner Sphere zombies, if nothing else, because it would literally have to be a war of massive attrition, which then the Smoke Jaguars tactics would make bloody well sense, because all the clans would be forced to do this if it wasn't that level. But I'm just saying, right? So that's how important these operations like Operation Galahad was, and for setting the table for the future that we know now. And then I think about, and I cannot for the life of me think of I'm reading Galahad here, but I know that there was a series that the Commonwealth was also running a series of joint training exercises during those years too, in part because it was helping to integrate some of the Federated Sons military units, more importantly, their command structure, into and in with how the Steiners worked their system, and vice versa, and to mixed results. This is how come if we look at the first year of the Fourth Succession War and the Steiner Draconis Combine front, the Steiners actually do something that's almost unheard of in their history. They take a massive chunk away from the Draconis Combine on a wide swath and keep it. They sit on it. And then but they do this and then in such a manner that they're not actually operating like they would traditionally do in that first 6 months. This is how come they were able to take so many worlds in that first 6 months to a year. And the following year, they didn't take hardly anything. As a matter of fact, they actually started losing worlds to Theodore to Kurita, and then they lost the entire Ragazal border region through negotiations, or lion's share of it through negotiations at the end of the war that brought the war to an end. Part of that era, or directly after that. So they didn't get to keep most of the stuff they took away from the combat in the first place. Excuse me, I think that coffee went down just a little bit. War games. And then we get into MechWarrior, the mind of the machine. It goes on about how just basically what makes us why we want to be, and how we train, and how critical and physical, how much physical training versus the intellectual training that goes in. Now, if we think about the equivalent of modern today, the most modern equivalent to a mech warrior in today's military would be a fighter pilot. An actual, atmospheric fighter pilot. Now, bomber pilots are great. Y'all got some serious skills, but you're still not the beast. You're just not the same as a fighter job. So look at how much time. I don't know what I quoted. I saw something a couple of years ago, and it said that the U.S. military spends over $4 million on just training their fighter pilots before they're even allowed into an active position role. They're going to have 1,000 hours or plus of training in actual flight before they're put before they graduate, and the sheer amount of resources and time and effort goes into these people. It's the similar thing for the mech warrior, right? So this is kind of what we're talking about. The apprentices of arms are the squires of the modern age. You get the gist. And only a fool or a dirtfoot depends on somebody else to keep the gear in shape. That kind of stuff. Things you should know. If you want to be a good pilot, pilots get to know their machines. And if you want to be a good mech warrior, it behooves you, especially in the era of coming out of 3025, coming into this era when some of your mech might be 200 years old, and your great grandfather might have died in it. I mean, literally, that could be the lineage of your machine, and so you need to know that machine as well as your techs, because you need to know. Like I said here a week ago, I was out doing a job late Thursday evening last week, and the truck was running fine. My work truck ran fine during the day. I come back in the evening and I start truck up, and there was a weird pulsing tone, something going on under the hood. It was different. So you drive something, you operate a machine long enough, you know what's normal. And then when something is off, you know it's off. You mean, in my case, I had a suspicion. I couldn't be sure because my hearing's going out, and I wasn't feeling nothing. And so I went down to my first job of the evening, and I'm down there and I'm pumping this load out. And I get out of the truck to disconnect the hoses, and I can hear that. Now I can hear a little warble. So I go up around the hood front. I'm following the noise around the truck. I get to the hood. I pop the hood on the truck, and I'm listening. And I get my flashlight out, because it sounds like a bearing going out. I'm old. I've driven a lot of old vehicles in my life, so I know when I have enough bearings. I've had enough bearings go out to have an idea, an inkling of what one might sound like. So I'm thinking, Jesus, this sounds like, and it's coming from up there where all the pulleys are, which doubles down on that. So I get my flashlight out, and I'm looking at all these pulleys, and there's two little guide pulleys. One's got a tensioner, it's got a spring on it for the belt, and then the other one's just a guide pulley. So it's just slightly above and to the right of the tensioner pulley, and then all the big pulleys are around. And I'm watching that little sucker, and it's going in and out. It's just barely can see it, but it's pulsating in and out. And I said, my gut told me to shut everything down, take the truck immediately to the mechanic shop, and call the mechanic for the next day. My gut said to do this. My mind said, I want hours and I need a paycheck, and I have only done half this job. So I took the truck to the sewer plant to unload it with the intent of taking it back and finishing the job. And in the process, while sitting down there on the platform, actually unloading the truck, that's when the bearing goes out. It takes the belt with it. So now I have to have a tow truck come, tow the truck to the mechanic, and then have the tow truck driver drop me off at work. The next day, go to the mechanic and tell the mechanic what's wrong with it. Now, it was an easy fix. They had it fixed that Friday afternoon, actually, and I thought I thought it would be a fairly easy fix. But you figure this $400 tow bill just for the tow bill. You know, if I'd have gone with my damn gut instinct, maybe I'd have saved the boss $400 and you know, a tow bill. I mean, I still would have had the truck down, and the job still would only got half done. Then the worst part was that I had cones down there, and I had a 30-foot hose down there. So when I got the truck, when he dropped me off at the shop, I then got in my van and drove down to where the job was. Managed to use some trash bags to cover the nasty end of the hose up as best I could, duct taping bejesus out of it. Like I said, duct tape. You should always have duct tape in your vehicle. Always. Carry 2 rolls. You'll never regret You'll never regret having them. In this case, I duct taped the bejesus some trash bags around both ends to keep the gunk and stuff. Then I took these hoses and I rolled them up as tight as I could, but they're old and they're stiff and they don't want to roll up. And then duct taped the bejesus out of them too, and then was able to shoehorn them in the back of my van, stinking. I had the windows open the whole way back to the shop until I got it out of my van because I couldn't leave them down there, and there was no place really to drag them off the side that they wouldn't be out and somebody be crying about it the next day for sure. Anyway, so mastering the inner fire, mind is a weapon, right? And the belter the best. Some more advertisements. Because your life depends on it. Yes, may very well. Drop into hell. Combat drop on Scheat, Scheat, Shuho, Sheher, Scheat 5. I'm sorry if I can't pronounce. Captain Sinclair MacCray. That guy I can pronounce. Don't let them kid you. The worst part of a drop is always the waiting. You know, they always say that. It's always the worst part. Personally, I've always thought the worst part of the drop was the impact. But hey, what do I know? You're a veteran enough. You can sleep through the wait. Why is the sergeant over there napping right now? We're all going to die. Oh, yeah. Well, we ain't on the ground yet, so what can you do? So we had the Falcon. I know I've done this video before. I know I did this video because the Falcon I've done before too. This is a 30-ton mech, if you're not familiar with it. It has 65 kph, 98 top speed, has jump jets, carries a medium laser, 2 light lasers, and 2 machine guns with about a ton of ammo, I think. Half a ton of ammo each. And the machine guns are mounted in the rear, which I always thought was an odd placement for machine guns. It would make more sense in my mind to have the light lasers facing the rear, but what do I know? All right, so nice little design and stuff. I don't know if they ever had any updated versions of these things. It 2536 being obvious the military leaders of the old Star League that there would need to be a future for a light mech that could screen units from the probing and scouting of enemy recon lances, largely composed of Wasp, Stinger, and Locust mechs. What was needed was a mech design that could chase them down and be more than a match for them in combat, which was born the bug killer, the FLC-4N Falcon. Falcon was used most commanders to keep away enemy scouts, and in doing so, yeah, there's a lot of machines that have that role, I've noticed. So engine swaps, talk about swapping your engines and stuff out. All right. MechWarrior training and experience, the BattleTech simulator. Get into that and that. Battle of Kilgour, Battle Force campaign, victory conditions, breakdown of the opponents. All right, so we got table organization for the 2nd Kearny Highlanders, 2nd Battalion, includes the battalion headquarters, Kernighan's Company, Braxton's Company, Minuku's Company, 3rd Battalion headquarters, McFlain's cavalry, McDougall's company, Prada's company, that's McFarlane's company. All right. Said here, at Kilgore, the Kearny Highlanders had numerous non-mech armored units attached to the 2nd and 3rd Battalions of Scout and Recon groups. So one of these units, the Scout Platoon of Norris Rangers, which made contact with hidden mechs of Graham's regiment of the force. So we got Norris's Rangers, so that's an armored company, or armored, Norris's Rangers, Command Platoon, Fire Platoon, Scout Platoon. So yeah, recon and armor, because the command platoon has got a Rommel, a Patton, 2 Rommels, 2 Pattons, and fire platoon includes 4 Manticores, and scout platoon includes 2 Pegasus and 2 regular, 2 regular what? 2 regular skimmers, 2 regular Pegasus. That don't make no damn sense. Anyway, probably it's got to be all 4 Pegasus, right? It only got to be, but it's only Randall's charge. Hey, Bill Randall, did you make a charge? Randall's charge, man. He took a laser for everybody. So maybe he didn't. Did you? Did you, Randall? Did you? Or is it just just a piece of Ferros that kind of got chipped off? Never mind. More Than Warriors, the Princess Lambeth. I think I've done this video before. Well, I'm going to post it anyway. So if I've done this video twice and you've watched it twice, good for you. The Untitled Poem. All right. There you go. Till next time. I was finally laying down for a minute.